So it's a bit of an end of an era. After about 18 months of ownership, tomorrow I am trading my Lightning in we're actually trading both of our cars, buying a couple new ones. One of the new ones is a Mach-E, so we're staying in the Ford family with EVs. But I wanted to share for prospective buyers maybe a would I buy it again, and what were some things that I loved and what I didn't love after about a year and a half of ownership. So for anybody that hasn't watched the other videos, and there are tons of videos on the Lightning on my YouTube channel, but for anybody that doesn't know, it's a 2023 XLT standard range, so the 240 mile range. The short range truck is rated, I think, 452 horsepower. I bought it as a brand new leftover, again, about 18 months prior to this video getting released. And I just wanted to run over quick, my feelings about the truck. It currently has just shy of 12,000 miles on it. I am the only owner. It has not been in any accidents, and it's generally, serviced pretty well. So some things I've loved about it. The first, and this is an EV thing, but particularly with this truck, because I've driven many others, it is incredibly quiet, like Lincoln, Lexus kind of quiet. It's shocking how little fanfare it goes through on the way down the road. Just really, really pleasant to drive, great to travel in, because it is just darn near silent. So you don't have to play the radio loud. There's not a lot of road noise. And I'm sorry for that shine. I'm trying to get out of that. So that's thing one. It's super roomy. It's shocking almost, to the degree that it also becomes something of a negative as well. But and you're going to see my junk in the back seat, but I just want to show you. So, and again, you see some stuff here, but I am north of 6 feet tall. Look at all that leg room. It's insane. We took this thing cross country over the summer, and my children really, literally are with, and they're older kids with their legs sticking out almost straight. Like it's wild. We had previously a 2011 Expedition, videos about that on the channel as well. This has a far larger back seat than that did, which is wild. So with regard to both the quiet and the interior space, no complaints. You could easily ride 5 adults in this thing very comfortably. The towing capacity, now the capacity itself is not all that much. This is again a standard range. It has the max tow package, so for this truck it tows 7,700 pounds. My interest in max tow was because it has the additional cooling for the batteries, double if I remember correctly. I will tell you what, I traded a Ram 2500 diesel, and this thing tows like a dream. It is an absolute peach. It's so heavy, and the weight is down low. All that torque, 550 plus pounds of torque down low at 1 RPM. It moves a weight from a dead stop like nothing I've ever driven. I love it for that, with the exception of the range. When you tow like a travel trailer, as an example, you see the nose of our travel trailer right there. When you pull that, between the wind resistance and the weight, it cuts the range probably in half, and it's already short range, so that's a pain. But if you're doing short trips, 20, 30, 40 miles an hour, miles to a campground, for instance, the thing's awesome. When I bought my old Corvette, I rented a U-Haul trailer, went and grabbed it, and it was like it wasn't even back there. It will go 70 miles an hour down the road with a 6,000 pound weight behind it. No big deal. So towing is fantastic. The frunk, that's the next thing I wanted to touch on. See if I can get it to open here. The frunk on these, and I didn't even realize this, and I'd researched the heck out of this thing. The frunk on this truck is 14.1 cubic feet. So to put that in perspective, I think at some generation of the Honda Civic would have been around that same size for the trunk. So when you consider it, you got a full-size truck with a full bed, and you got all this storage up here. It's crazy. This floor will hold up to 400 pounds. There's storage room underneath too. So your charger, if you have that, adapters for fast charging, things like that, you can hide those down beneath. It is an incredibly usable space. Every week when I grocery shop, I put the groceries up front because it keeps them from sliding around. It's really a good usable space, and it's a lot of additional capacity that truck owners just haven't known. The around view camera is amazing. So the cameras on these are just absolutely top notch. It is a huge truck and it drives like a huge truck. And this is coming from somebody. I've owned more than 10 full-size trucks, 1/2 and 3/4 ton. This drives like the largest thing I've ever owned. And I will say, you know, we were out the family this weekend. We parked in a parking garage. All those cameras really help. It helps to back up to a trailer. It helps when you're in proximity. You can see, just as an example, on the bottom of the mirror, there's one of the cameras right there. But this thing, it gives you an amazing around view that lets you just really see all the obstacles in every direction, and, you know, people, kids, etc. So that camera is fantastic. The final thing, and this is more of an EV thing in general, but I certainly would relate it to this truck as well: home charging. It is revolutionary. I've never visited a gas station in this truck, and while charging on a, you know, highway distance trip is a bit of a pain, the day-to-day, you just go out and it's full because you plug in at home. It charges overnight, and it takes all the drama out. And it's shocking how much time I've gained back by not going to a gas station. So going to what are things I don't love as much after all this time. Ironically, one of the complaints, I guess, would be the overall size. I think for being an F-150, so for a 1/2 ton truck, I think it's a little too big. I never would have thought that, but you know, even to the degree with all that ginormous leg room in the back seat, I feel like this truck could be shorter by a few inches, and it would make it more pleasant to drive day to day. Because going to the gas station, and, you know, I've been driving 30 years, and I have a company car. I drive professionally for my work. I log a lot of miles per year. So with all those credentials out of the way, I will tell you, this thing's kind of a pain to park at the grocery store. You know, people that park generally are not very thoughtful about it. And having a truck of this size, it's, you know, it ends up being a 3-point turn a lot of times. And usually because someone else is not quite in their spot or whatever. But, you know, and even when you park, you know, every time you come out, you're thinking about whether you got a door ding. And these trucks are made out of aluminum. So, you know, it's just, I think it's a hair bigger than it needed to be, and I'm not quite sure why it's so gigantic. It literally could haul 5 people north of 6 feet tall that are rotund super comfortably. And I'm not sure you really need that in a pickup. But again, maybe that's personal preference, just a thing I wanted to share. The charging speed caps out at about 150 kilowatts, and I've seen north of that, 160-ish. They did an update. By modern standards, it's slow to charge, and when you travel long distances on the highway, that becomes kind of a pain. It does take quite a while as others, you know, just take on energy so much faster. The range, I wanted to touch on that, and that's an EV thing quite a bit. And again, I bought a standard range. I knew what I was buying when I bought it. I don't regret buying this truck because the price point matched my needs. But a thing that I would share with you, so the rated range is 240 miles, particularly in a truck because these things are not particularly aerodynamic. I mean, look at this nose, straight up and down. On the highway, they're less efficient than they are in town, which is unusual, right? So in town, you have regeneration. Every time you come to a stop, you're putting a little energy back in the battery. Out on a long highway trip, you know, you're not doing that. So the wind resistance and the general weight of this thing, it's going to go less of a distance on the highway than it is in town. So let's just say their rating was perfect, and it will go a true 240 miles in town on a charge. So some things to keep in mind. On the highway, you'll probably be something 85 to 90% of that, at best case scenario, in the summertime, in temperate weather. As it gets colder, your range gets shorter. So that means you could really go 210 to 215 miles on a full charge. But here's the thing. These things, in order to protect the battery, which is incredibly expensive, they step down as you reach different milestones in charging. And I have another video on this that gets a little more in depth with this. But the long story short is, when you hit 60% total charge, it slows down to about 100 kilowatts. When you get to 80%, then it slows it to like 50 kilowatts. So the rate at which you take on energy is slower and slower. You will not be wanting to charge past 80%. So you can't get to a charger, or you shouldn't, at 0%. So it means on a highway trip, you really only have about 70% of the battery capacity available for your travels. So for a truck like this gets somewhere between 2 and 2.3 miles per kilowatt. It's 103 or 105 usable kilowatt battery. Realistically, between chargers, you're only going about 150 miles. And we bared this out. I have another video, it's much longer. Our trip from the East Coast to Missouri and back this summer, which wonderful trip in the sense that the truck was terrific. Everybody was comfortable, it's quiet, we were relaxed. But it takes a lot of time because you're stopping every 2 hours. So you have to plan for that. And if you know it up front, certainly it is something you can expect. But, you stop every 2 hours and you're there 25 to 30 minutes charging. It's a lot of time. I think probably on that drive to Missouri, it added about 5 hours of drive time each direction. And again, this wasn't a surprise. I'm fully versed in EVs. We had another one before. As you know, we're about to get another one. But it's something that you need to be prepared for. The flip side, people say, well, get the, to get to the point. So 150, 160 miles on the highway is about as far as you're going to go, because the other thing, of course, chargers are not everywhere. They're not in every town. They're not on every corner. They're much less available, although availability is pretty good, and the Tesla chargers in particular have been excellent. But, they're not at every exit ramp like a gas station is. So you're not necessarily going to be able to exactly go from 80% to 10 or 5. You have to plan your trip as to where you can actually plug the thing in. A huge side benefit, by the way, is the adapter that allows you to charge on the Tesla network. Using the NACS charging, that is game changing, because the Tesla chargers, in our experience, we charged at about 20 of those on our trip. They were absolutely flawless. Not a single time that they didn't work. They all worked around the same speed. They were not as fast as some of their competitors, but they're just rock solid and they always work. So that's a huge win for this truck. Another thing on a trip, and again, this is more highway travel, but things you need to know before you get in one of these. It's not cheaper to operate. In fact, I think the gas counterpart, I did the math going to, again, on that trip, I think our energy costs probably would have been somewhere around 10% less in a gas 150, getting something around 20 miles to the gallon on the highway. So it just, it again goes to home charging, being in a situation where every day, let's say your commute out and back is something shy of 150 miles, that is where this thing shines. You get as we get some incentives, just as an example, from our home state, from the electric company, from the state itself, and the convenience, right? You wake up and you're at whatever state of charge you want to be, 80%, 90% to protect the battery. It's such a convenience. It's awesome. So to get to the final question, and this went a little longer than I intended, but I like sharing information. I like people that are, considering getting in, that have good questions about these. The question is, would I buy it again? The answer is, I absolutely would. Our situation has changed. We're actually moving to a Mach-E and a Ranger, which I think will suit our needs a little bit better. But I have to tell you, I am sad about the loss of this truck. It has really been fantastic. It stranded me once early on. They knew what it was. It was some sort of a charge controller for the battery pack, which in a couple of days was replaced by Ford. Other than that, it's been perfect. And that was very early on. And I expect, still fairly new technology. And as a 23, it was only the second year they made these things. So they're going to have some issues. But I would absolutely buy this truck again. I like everything about it. I'm good with what it cost. I'm good with the color, the equipment, everything, with the only minor complaints, the things that I pointed out. So by all means, if you're considering one of these, look at my other videos on my channel. I have lots of them up about this. We had an e-Golf before. There's going to be new information on the new Mach-E. I'll do some stuff on our new Ranger as well. I've got stuff on my Corvette. Like, I'm into cars, and there's a lot of content there. So, but please post comments, questions down below. Anything that you want to know more about, I can speak to it. I am the sole driver of this thing, and I know it inside and out. So I thank you so much for watching. I hope this helps somebody, and please like, subscribe, share it, and we'll see you again in the next one.